Kids love Dungeons & Dragons, and I have learned that firsthand since teaching kids from age 6 to 18. We have long believed on this channel that D&D is for everyone. If they allow themselves to try it, they will like it. I have run several games for young children and recently taught 200 high school students aged 16 to 18 to play, most who had never played or had any interest in playing. Here are 7 things I learned about and how to play Dungeons & Dragons with kids. Stay tuned to the end of this video to find out where you can download free resources to use in your game. For younger kids, like early elementary level kids, I highly recommend a kid version of the character sheet. They aren't ready for the complexity of the regular Dungeons & Dragons character sheet. I want them to understand that there are numbers that represent how strong or how smart or how awesome they are. These are concepts that they may understand versus what dexterity means. I created this character sheet that simplifies the stats but still has the skills lumped into it. My goal is to teach them the concepts but allow for a smooth transition eventually into the regular character sheet. I have the usual things on the sheet like armor, health, weapons, and spells, but realize with kids they probably like to draw their character. So I have a place for any pets and keep track of any friends they make along the way. They probably want to draw a picture of their pets, so I have a place for that as well. With this sheet, they can quickly find the information they need and the modifiers they need to add to their rolls. I use the same modifier chart for the modifiers, and they roll for D6 and drop the lowest roll for the stat block. If you're playing with older kids, you might better understand the game, or if you want an easy to read character sheet, then I recommend this scaled down character sheet. This is good for introducing someone to the game and helping them learn, but includes everything on the regular character sheet. This makes for an easier transition to the full regular character sheet. The emphasis here is to give them the modifiers they need and easily find what they can do on a turn and the spell or weapon damage. As always, I would start with some pre-generated characters for them to choose from until they get the basics of the game, while running them through a one-shot. Once they understand the game and it seems like they like it, they really need to make their own character. I would have them create it on paper using the full character sheet. When I did this with my students, I had them fill out a paper sheet and build the character from scratch, the old school way, so they could see where the numbers come from, and so they have an experience of doing it that way at least one time in their life. You gotta raise them right. Be aware that young kids love pets, and they want to make any smallest creature their pet. I first became aware of this when describing a baby owlbear. Can we keep it? They were asking. So be prepared for this. Decide if you're going to allow this. How can you say no, you monster? My advice is to suggest a place they can put it so it doesn't get hurt and require constant care like a kennel or something. How much is this going to cost them to host their pet in a kennel? If they bring it with them, what can the pet do? Like in the case of the baby owlbear, would you let it fight like any other character? If you do, what are they going to do when you have a dead pet and a bunch of crying kids on your hands? I personally explain that they're too young and undeveloped to fight and that they might want to protect it. You may want to think about tameable and untamable monsters as an option so that maybe they can't make everything they meet a pet. One idea is to curtail the pet idea is to remind them that they have to find food for it, or pay for food, or pay to put in a kennel. Young kids love potty humor in their D&D game, or any role playing for that matter. So be sure and drop in some bathroom humor elements into your Dungeons & Dragons game. There is nothing like the sound of kids giggling at the shopkeeper who has a gas problem. They're finding out that the reason that the king can't come to the party because he ate some grapes that gave him explosive diarrhea. A little goes a long way, so don't feel like everything has to be gross and bathroom related. Just an occasional quirk of an NPC or discovery at the end of a quest will do nicely. One idea for a quest could be that a mayor of the local town has asked the party to investigate the horrible smell coming from the forest. It's causing people to not come to their town because the road to their town goes through this forest. They discover the problem is an owlbear with a really bad gas problem, caused by eating some berries that are now growing in the forest. Another idea is to make a heist where they have to steal the underwear of a baron who wronged a wizard and run it up the flagpole to embarrass him. Underwear is funny too. Young kids love shopping and role-playing games. One thing I learned the hard way is that kids love shopping in Dungeons & Dragons. If there are stores in a town, they'll want to visit them all and are looking to buy something. Yep, they love what is arguably the most boring part of the game. With adults, I try to look for ways to shorten the shopping experience, but with kids, I would suggest leaning into the idea. Typically, like real life, one person from the party is looking for something in a store and the rest are along for the ride. It's really only enjoyable for the person buying something. There's really no getting around it, but for the kids, I like to make it entertaining anyway. I like to make the NPC funny in the way he looks or acts and have a distinctive voice. I try to make every store NPC different and as memorable as possible. One could be gruff and act like the players are bothering him, but after some conversation, they find out his dog died this morning. Another NPC can be very happy to see them and greets them warmly. In their interaction with her, they find she is very absent-minded and keeps misplacing her glasses, which are on her head the whole time. Kids love dice. If you really want to hook kids into playing Dungeons and Dragons, it keeps them off the streets, right? Then give them some dice. Better yet, give them their own set of D&D dice to keep. They are absolutely enthralled by the different shapes and they love rolling them. When I run a game for adults, I often cut back on dice rolling to move the game along, but with kids, I would advise the opposite. Get them involved in rolling dice for things and they will love it. I like to give away dice when I play with kids because why not start them out on their dice goblin habit early, right? Of course, I teach them there's no such thing as too many dice. With my nieces and nephews, I've taken them to the local game store and shown them the wall of dice. Oh yeah, they're hooked. If you have a lot of kids or have neighborhood kids, I would suggest buying a big bag of dice on Amazon. We'll have a link in the bio or the comments or somewhere. Each kid gets their own set of dice in a bag and they are so happy. Fun fact, these make great treats to give out at Halloween as well. Their parents will love the endless rolling on the kitchen table or stepping on a D4 they left on the floor. Kids love D&D miniatures and that is a good thing because the minis help them to visualize what is going on in the game. The only problem with minis is you really need to have the mini match the character they are playing or the monster they're fighting. For young kids, it really becomes a problem if one of the minis doesn't look like the character. Oh my gosh. So like if one of them, their mini matches their character and the other one's doesn't, that becomes the whole thing.
My mini doesn't look like my character. Her mini looks like her character.
It hasn't been a big deal in my experience, but it is a good point of friction that you can plan for. One way to plan is to match the character with the pre-gen character they chose. Or you can take them to the local game store and have them pick out a mini that matches their character. Why not start them on their mini habit early? And they see that wall of minis. Well, think about the first time you saw that wall. So good. Aside from matching the mini to the character, kids love to see where they are on the map and move the mini during combat or around the room to show where they're investigating. To get your own copies of the character sheets talked about in this video, go to dungeonclass.com and scroll down to resources and you can download them there. If you like tips on how to make your Dungeons & Dragons game more fun or more challenging or more interesting, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like live play Dungeons & Dragons, check out the podcast with my friends at ConjureCast. It's available wherever you download your favorite podcasts. I love you some live action.